Today, a French apple tart, one of my favorite recipes because it's not a very sweet dessert, but it's really well made from start to finish when you do it from scratch. So here we're going to do the actual pie crust recipe. So what you're going to need before you start is, you need to prepare 5¼ cups of all-purpose flour. You need 1 tablespoon of kosher salt, you have here. You need 1¼ sticks or 6 ounces of unsalted butter, which I have chilling on my plate here. You need 1¾ cups or 11 ounces of solid shortening or Crisco. We have right here. I'll show you. And of course, 1 cup of chilled ice water, which I put in this little cup with a little ice cube in here, so we can keep things as cold as possible. And before I start, we want to do one technique is really cool is if you get a deep pan like this, you fill it with ice. So the surface you're using, if you're not using a marble slate top, which is great for pastries, and using a butcher block like this, you need to really chill the butcher block as much as you can because we're using basically butter and shortening, which with heat, it will melt fairly quickly. So you want to keep them as chilled as possible. So you're going to keep them on ice, and until you're ready to flip out the actual dough to work on the surface, you're going to keep this plate with ice here as much as possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically take our 5½ ounces of cups of flour, just fold it into a bowl like this, okay? And to that, we're going to put in our butter cubes, okay? These are really cut really small, just so we can actually work with it, okay? So we'll add a little bit at a time to work those in first. I'm going to add a little bit of the shortening as well. So you don't want to dump everything at one time and then have it all clumping together. So we're going to do it in stages here. Okay? Just get a traditional fork, because if you don't have a cutter for flour that you typically use for pastry, it gets a little bit daunting. So I'm going to incorporate this as much as possible. And basically you'll press down, make a basically well in here for yourself. You'll probably press down those little cubes of butter into the flour. You can turn it for yourself. And just sort of break it in there. Okay. When you get some of these cubes already incorporated in the flour, what we want is a granulation of the flour and butter mixture, right? So that's really what you're working towards. A little shortening and butter into your flour with the salt as well. And you see this granulation you have here. There's a lot of butter mixed with the flour and the shortening. So what we did was we kept it on ice because we don't want the shortening and the butter to keep melting, especially in a heated house. You're gonna get some melting and softness, but you want to keep it as cold as possible. So now we're gonna just add a little bit of the water, a tablespoon at a time. Mix that in. Just keep adding that little bit at a time. You want to make sure all the water is incorporated so it doesn't, it comes together when you flip it off of your surface here. So you keep adding the ice chilled water. Okay. Keep folding it. You're going to see it's going to come together in more larger lumps as we go along in this process, right? So you really want that flaky crust, and that's what the shortening of the butter does for you. And really this process, you can always get pie crust out of the store and roll it out and start that way. And that's fine. There's no problem with that at all. But this really is the ultimate, French technique of baking a French pie crust, which makes it extremely flaky and very light. So you're not going to get a very dense crust when we get done with this. So keep mixing it. It's going to come together. You don't want to dump all the water in at one time, because then you're going to just these big clumps of dough in here. Okay. So now we actually incorporated some of the water. We used about 3/4 of the cup so far, because what we want to use is just enough water where we can get a little bit and squeeze in our hands, and it comes together real clean. It doesn't stick to your hand. It just comes out real nice and clean like that. So we're going to leave it like this. We're going to put it aside. Now, again, we're chilling this here since we've been talking. So I want to remove our pan. So now the surface is really cold, which we want. We don't want the butter to melt on the surface. So we're going to fold this out onto the surface. And it looks really clumpy, really loose right now. which is good, is what you want. And this is a lot of pie crust dough, just as you can see. So we're just going to bring it together. Yeah, we're going to make probably 2 or 3 balls out of this, but for now, this is good. So we're going to just basically loosely form it. You don't want to knead it like bread. You just want to basically bring it together so you have this mass. Because what you're going to do is you're going to chill it, and this is all going to come together very nicely. So we have this right this. And that's pretty much as much kneading as you want to do. You'll see there's some butter chunks in there, which is great, and the shortening's still in there. So basically what you have is this little mass here. So we're going to get our cutter, which I have here, and we're going to just cut it in half, okay? And half of this is going to be enough for a pie crust of this size, okay? So if you need more, you always can add a little more to it. So I'm going to formulate the actual ball again, flatten it out because you want to have a disc when you actually make it, when you roll it out. Don't worry if the sides crack on you because you want still a little drier because you want a flaky crust. So I'm making it sort of like this, and you want to refrigerate it just like this. Wrap it with saran wrap, leave it overnight, or at least 3 hours, 3-4 hours. And then when you take it out, I'll show you a technique how to roll it without making a mess as well. All right, so that's the first really step of making the pie crust. This is a French pie crust, which makes 2 large pie crust shells. So if you ever want to do apple pie, this recipe is great for apple pie because you can probably do the bottom piece and the top piece all in one batter, one recipe. All right, so that's great. First step's gone. We're going to show you next what we're going to do is rolling it out, and I'm going to make the filling in the next segment. Okay, so we just did the pie crust recipe that you just saw here on our demonstration. What we're doing next is the pie crust filling for the French apple tart. So what we have now you need to prepare is 6 Granny Smith apples, which are fairly large in size, about this size. You don't want anything that's too tiny. You want them to have a lot of juice in them for the filling. You're going to need also 3/4 cups of sugar, and what I did is I put 1/4 cup of brown sugar, because I like the molasses flavor in it, and 2/4 cups of the actual white sugar. We need about a teaspoon or tablespoon, whatever your preference is, of cinnamon in here, and also a tablespoon of flour, all-purpose flour. You'll need a tablespoon of the freshly squeezed lemon juice as well. And of course our oats, we discussed, is actually about 3/4 or half a cup. It's a half a cup of oats. We're doing it this way. So what we'll do here now is core the apples and show you a technique of how to do that. So what we do here is we're putting our thumb in the center, like that, and we're putting our paring knife, which is a short little blade like this. And you're going to put it on an angle, you're going to put it right down like that, and use your thumb as a pivot around the apple, right? So you're going to turn the apple, not the knife. You turn the apple, not the knife. It comes out like that. So you have a little core like that, comes out. Do the same thing on the other side. Put your thumb in the center, angle, cut, turn the apple, right? And it comes out like that. So now we're going to cut it in half. Actually, no, we're actually going to take the skin off. So use a vegetable peeler. You just turn the apple around, and you're going to take the skin off entirely. This makes it a lot easier than doing with a knife. It comes out very quickly and much cleaner than trying to knife this whole thing off. So this here comes off relatively quickly. Okay, cut in half, core it again, thumb in the center, around the core, and again we're off there. Leave the half in there, put the other one here again, core it here. Okay, and again that's how we do it, real quickly. So you have now 12 slices of halves here of Granny Smith apples, and to that we're going to start tossing in some of our ingredients here. So we're going to start with the actual white sugar. Just sprinkle that in there. Okay. Do our brown sugar, which in this case is more moisture. So I'm going to just use your hand here, break it up a little bit. Okay. Put our lemon juice in here. Okay. Our cinnamon. Okay. Our oats. Okay, and our flour. Okay, now we're going to do a quick toss. We're not going to really, do too much with this because it's going to be baking for about 15 to 20 minutes in our oven. Okay, so you just want to really incorporate lightly because a lot of this is going to be incorporated when we take it out in our mash here. Okay, so we're going to just lightly mix it together so it's all basically on top of it. Okay, so I'm going to take it now. You get a jelly roll dish like this. So you just dump it on here. Okay. All this is going to be part of the filling, and we'll combine as we go. So, go like this. Just organize a little bit like this. It'll be fine. Again, all this is going into the filling when you get done with it. Okay, you can probably pick it up if you want. Just slip on top. It doesn't lay on top of the pan for you. Okay, so you have 12 slices, all seasoned up. And what we're going to do is pop in the oven for about 15-20 minutes. And in that process, I'm going to show you the actual rolling of the pie crust dough out. You took out our pie crust from the refrigerator. Like I say, you hold this for about, you can do as little as 30 minutes to about 3 hours or so to let it chill. And what we're doing now is, I'm showing you a little technique that I usually use, is to make sure it doesn't stick to your rolling pin. Is you get 2 sheets of cellophane and you put it in between the dough and you roll it out. So then you have 2 sections here and a rolling pin, and you can roll it out fairly easily, right, without sticking to your rolling pin, without using flour to it. So now we rolled it out pretty easily. So to get into our pie crust, which you can measure out right now, is about a little bit overhanging, right? Because we need that too for the sides. So we're going to take this here, we'll take our first sheet of cellophane off, like this, real easy. Okay? So now we have the second sheet here. Now we can pick it up fairly easy, like this, right? We'll bring it over here, and we'll just put it over top of it like this. Okay? And it's going to be a lot overhang. Take that piece off, real simple. Okay? And we're going to basically tuck it inside the pie crust. And you're going to have probably extra in here, but don't worry about that because we're going to take a lot of that off anyway. It should be about 1/8 of an inch of diameter on the pie crust itself. So you can push it up here against the sides, and just make it gently put it together because it's going to be a little bit more warmer because it's out of the refrigerator. And pressure against the sides for yourself, right? And do that like this. Make sure it gets underneath the crust here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your rolling pin, roll it on top here like this. Okay? And that's how you get your crust on your tart pretty easily done. And that's all done within, as you can see, fairly quickly, right? Just press against the sides here. You see we have a lip of actually a nice crust here. It's not too thin around the edges here, right? So it's really still warm. It's getting warmer because it's in this temperature. So just press against here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to basically take it again. You can use the same cellophane we used before. And we're going to just cover it again and put it back in the refrigerator for another 30 minutes, okay? Before you put the filling on. Again, this is a lot of butter, a lot of shortening, so you don't want to keep it out of the oven until it's ready to go in the oven. So that's our next step. This goes in the refrigerator, and when the pie crust filling is ready, I'll show you how to put it together. So we actually now took out the pie crust from the refrigerator for after we rolled it out and put it in the pan. So we have it here right now. And one thing you're going to do is you're going to actually line this with parchment paper to put what's called blind bake. So we have these 2 pieces of parchment papers in here, and we're going to just put it in here like this. Bring it to the side. And you can cut this in a circle, but I always found if you do it this way, you can take out the beads easier. And what you're going to do is you're going to actually either use, we have these ceramic pie weights, which you normally use, or you can use rice, or better yet, chickpeas, which are basically the same size. If you use chickpeas, it's really cheaper than buying these. These are ceramic pie weights. We're going to put them all in here. So basically we're doing what's called, again, a blind bake. So you line this whole pan here, and making sure the crust is weighted down and the sides as well. So we're going to put this in like this. You're going to preheat the oven to 400 degrees. And you're going to cook this for about 20 minutes or until golden brown. But you're going to drop the temperature to 375 to cook the remaining crust. So that's the starting process, and it'll take about 20 minutes to do this. So let's put in the oven. And the actual filling, remember we put the actual apples in the oven already, and we took them out and we put them all in a bowl and we mashed them up. And then you'll see in here, there's some larger chunks of apples and there's some smaller pieces of apples in here, which is great because it has good consistency in there for when somebody bites into it. Now what I like is also, I like nutmeg. Now you might not like nutmeg. It doesn't call, the recipe doesn't call for it, but I like to have a little dimension in there. So put a little more nutmeg in here. Fresh, of course. You can use the powder, but the fresh is always more stronger. Mix that in a little bit, okay? And then if you also want to do something different with it, I have apple brandy, and we're going to take about a tablespoon of apple brandy in here, and I'm just going to put 1 tablespoon of apple brandy in here to give it a little more depth, okay? And mix that in as well. Okay, so now you have your filling all ready for when your pie crust comes out. We're going to transfer this into that pie crust, and we're going to decorate the top of it with slices of apples, which I'm showing you next when we take it out of the oven. So now we took out our pie crust from the oven, and we had like the weights on it, as we said. We peeled them off and put the weights aside. So now we have this golden brown, pie tart, right? It's cooled. It's basically, it's still a little warm, but you have to cool it off before you put the filling in, which you have right here. Now, like I said, we have this already cooled, and for about 30 minutes, we didn't refrigerate it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put the actual filling in the pie tart here. Okay, just a little bit of time. Just smooth it on with your pastry spatula here. Like I say, you want some big chunks in here because you do want it to be not applesauce. You want to have some dimension in here. And what we're going to show you is really how we decorate the entire cake to make it look more professional, more appealing. Right now it's okay. We basically smooth it out right here, right? You want to just get it right underneath the rim, so you don't want to get it over top of the rim. So you want to peel it right toward that area, right there. Right. So now you have a real nice filling right at the base of the rim of the tart. Now, if you need to put an extra apple in your recipe, if you like more filling, you can do that. So you have a real pretty tart filling right now. Okay. So now we have our filling, and now what we're going to do is I cut up 4 apples, Granny Smith apples. These are small ones, like this big. I basically sliced them as thin as I can get them, about this dimension. And what we're going to do is we're going to decorate the entire filling here. I'm not going to be talking because I'm going to speed this camera up so you can see how fast we can do this. And at the end, we put in the oven at 375, and we're going to actually bake it for about 20 to 25 minutes. Okay. Pie out of the oven after 20 minutes, and glazed it with a apple brandy and sugar glaze. So we have a great crust here. See, it's nice golden brown or flaky like we talked about. And that's a French apple tart that we prepared for you today. Hopefully you enjoy it.